Right now, while most gardeners are letting their beds go quiet for the year, there's a 5-day stretch happening in your soil that will never come back until next August. Warm ground, cooling air. It's the one combination every seed catalog buries in fine print, and almost nobody plans for it. This video is about the 5 seeds that need to go in the ground this month, not next month, not next spring, this month, or you lose them for an entire year. Here's what almost every gardener believes right now. August is cleanup season. You pull the spent bean vines, you let the tomatoes finish their run, and you start thinking about raking leaves. That belief isn't wrong exactly, it's just incomplete. And that gap between the season is ending and the season is actually splitting into two is where most people lose months of harvest without ever realizing it. Your soil, at this exact moment, is warmer than it will be at any other planting window all year. Spring soil is cold and sluggish, and seeds sit in it doing almost nothing for weeks. August soil has had an entire summer of sun baked into it. Seeds dropped into that ground right now don't wait around. They wake up fast. Meanwhile, the air above that soil is starting its slow cool down into fall, which is exactly the environment a specific group of crops was built for. Warm roots, cool tops. It's a narrow overlap, and it closes by mid-fall whether you use it or not.
I'm not telling you this from a theory book. I've made the mistake of waiting until September more than once, and what I got back were small, stressed plants that never had the runway to mature before the cold hit. So let's not repeat that. Here are the 5 seeds worth your attention this month, building from useful to essential, and I'll show you exactly what to do with each one. Point 1. Spinach. Most people plant spinach in spring and wonder why it barely gives them 2 good weeks before it bolts and turns bitter. That's not a spinach problem, that's a timing problem. Spinach is genetically wired to panic and go to seed the moment it senses long, hot days, because in nature, that's its cue to reproduce before it dies. Plant it in August instead, and it senses the opposite signal. Days are shortening, not lengthening. There's no rush to flower, so it just keeps producing tender leaves for weeks. The catch is germination. Spinach seed struggles in soil that's still warm from summer, so soak your seeds overnight before sowing. Plant them about ½ an inch deep, and if your afternoons are still brutal, lay a board or damp cloth over the row for the first few days to cool the soil until sprouts appear. Do that, and in about 6 weeks, you're harvesting spinach that never had the chance to turn bitter in the first place. That's not a bonus crop. That's the crop most people are quietly failing at every single spring, solved by simply changing the month.
The next one on this list is the crop most gardeners assume is a lost cause once summer heat arrives, and it's actually the opposite. Point 2. Carrots. Everyone plants carrots in spring, gets a decent harvest, and never considers a second round. But carrots and beets share something unusual. They produce more sugar as the temperature around their roots drops. A carrot pulled after a few weeks of cool fall nights tastes noticeably sweeter than the same variety pulled in July heat. Sow the seed about a ½ inch deep in loose, stone-free soil. Keep the top layer of soil consistently damp for the first 10 days, since carrot germination is famously slow and easy to lose to a dry crust, and thin the seedlings once they're an inch or 2 tall so the roots have room to size up. Most varieties need somewhere around 70 days to mature, which lines up almost perfectly with an August start and a late fall harvest, right when the flavor peaks instead of when the heat has flattened it.
Point 3. Beets. Here's something most gardeners never realize. 1 packet of beet seed isn't giving you single seeds. Each little cluster you drop in the ground actually contains several seeds fused together, which is exactly why beet rows always come up crowded and need thinning. Sow them about ½ an inch deep and a few inches apart, and once seedlings emerge, thin them down so each root has 3 to 4 inches of breathing room. Otherwise, none of them will size up properly. The payoff for waiting until they've had a real fall chill before harvest is a root that's genuinely different in flavor, deeper, sweeter, less of that raw, earthy edge people either love or avoid. And the leaves aren't a throwaway either. They cook down beautifully with a little oil and garlic, so you're effectively growing two vegetables in the same patch of ground.
Point 4. Kale. If your only experience with kale is a tough, faintly bitter leaf from a summer harvest or a grocery store bag, you haven't actually tasted what this plant is capable of. Kale is a cold season crop that's frequently grown in the wrong season and then judged for it. When a mature kale plant goes through its first light frost, it triggers a genuine biological response, converting stored starches into sugars as a kind of natural antifreeze. The leaf that was sharp and tough in August becomes noticeably milder and sweeter after that cold snap. But the plant needs size and maturity before the frost arrives for that conversion to matter, which is exactly why an August start beats a September one. Direct sow about a 1/4 inch deep, thin to somewhere around 12 to 18 inches for full-size plants, and expect your first real harvest in roughly 2 months, with the best flavor still weeks away from that point. The final one on this list isn't even technically a seed in the way you're thinking, and missing it costs people an entire extra year without them ever noticing.
Point 5. Garlic. Garlic is planted as a clove, not a true seed, but it behaves like one, and August is when the smart move actually happens, not in the ground yet, but at the decision point. The best seed garlic, the varieties that actually perform, tend to sell out well before the traditional October or November planting window most people wait for. If you source and reserve your cloves now, you're not planting yet in most climates. You're simply making sure you have real options instead of whatever's left on the shelf later. In warmer regions, an early planting in late August can even work directly, giving the clove extra time to establish roots before winter, which typically produces a noticeably larger bulb the following summer. It's a 10-month project that starts with a 5-minute decision this week. Notice what actually connects all 5 of these. It's not that August is a secret bonus season nobody's heard of. It's that most gardening advice was written entirely for spring, so an entire
The second planting window gets treated as an afterthought instead of what it actually is, a completely separate opportunity with its own rules. The plants that struggle most in summer heat, spinach, kale, beets, carrots, are precisely the ones built to thrive in exactly what August turns into over the following weeks. So here's the actual takeaway. Don't think of your garden as having one season that ends in fall. Think of it as having 2 starts, spring and late summer, and the second one rewards you with flavor the first one usually can't. Get spinach and carrots in this week if your soil's workable. Follow with beets and kale right behind them, and use the next few days to lock in your garlic source before the good varieties disappear. None of this requires new tools or new skills, just planting at the moment these particular crops were actually built for.
If this changed how you're thinking about the rest of your growing year, the next video walks through exactly how to protect these 5 once the first real frost shows up. So subscribe if you want that when it lands, and drop a comment with which of these 5 you're planting first. I read all of them.